Hey friends, are you feeling stuck? Like stuck in a rut? Stuck in a way of being, like can't seem to break out of, destructive habits or limiting self-belief, or you're just looking for a change and you're just not really sure like how to make that happen? This is for you because I want to remind you that at any point, at any stage in your life, wherever you are right now, you are 1000% allowed to reinvent yourself. Like, step outside of yourself, take a look and think, where are you holding on to stories or conceptions or misconceptions or beliefs about yourself that's keeping you stuck? And where can you start to be creative with those and reinvent yourself to start living the life that feels like it's your own? Yeah, if that's like, that's interesting, hang out here for a second. I'm going to quickly introduce myself to those who don't already know me. My name is S.A.A.R.A. I'm a musician from London. I compose, produce, perform my own genre-defying EDM, funk, electronic, dance music. I am also a creativity empowerment coach, so I really love inspiring people to be bold and be brave enough to trust their creative calling, whether or not you want to do it professionally or it's just something that brings you joy in your own spare time. But it's so important because it's a key part of who we are, and we are all creative people. And one of the biggest projects that we ever get to work on as a creative being is the life that we live. So I really want everyone to have a creative mindset in approaching the world that they create for themselves. I also, and I think this is really important to share, I am also someone who has been through block and been through burnout and been through breakdown. And the reason why I'm making these series of videos is March this year, I just said, you know what, enough. Like, I'm tired of feeling like I can't do the thing that I love most, which is make music and support people in finding their way back to their creative passions. So I was burnt out, I was in block, my band fell apart, I had to leave a pretty horrible toxic workplace, I had to have multiple friendship breakups off the back of some of these things, and I found myself in a really, really difficult space where a lot of the world that I used to know wasn't there anymore. And I had to get really creative with the art of reinvention to make sure that all of these things, which were very crushing and painful and difficult to walk through, became the catalyst to allow me to reinvent myself as someone who gets to do all of the things that they enjoy, gets to live a full, beautiful life. And I'm on that journey right now. And I think it's really important, particularly on these spaces, because there's so many videos out there telling you, oh, this is how you do it, and this is how you make all the money and all the followers and all the things. But it's really hard when you're in that place thinking, yeah, but I just can't see how I get there. Like, how do I start? Like, what does that journey look like? The journey looks like trial and error, being able to turn up imperfectly, trying things that maybe don't work, being able to let go of stuff that's no longer serving you, being able to stand up for yourself and hold boundaries and have difficult conversations with friends and family and employers and, all that kind of difficult but really, really good stuff. So that's why I make these videos, because I'm on that journey right now. And I've been making these videos for about 6 months. And the great thing about this is that I can go back and see some of the changes that have come from just taking a minute to pause, reflect, and share some of the things that have been really transformational for me on this journey. So I put these videos out, I speak from the heart, and I really hope it finds you and hits you in the heart and helps you also walk a difficult but very, very empowering path to creating the life that you want to live. So yeah, the art of reinventing oneself. And it's really interesting to me because when I think about music and a lot of the artists that I really love and that have really inspired me to create music and to continue to create music, they're always reinventing, they're always coming back with something new and something fresh and challenging perceptions of themselves that once were. Like when I think about David Bowie or, you know, Madonna, the likes of Kate Bush, Bjork, there's always something new about them every time you would see them, a new iteration, a new version. And I started to really consider that, particularly when I was finding myself confronting the consistent issues in my life around respect, around acceptance, around perfectionism. And I was the consistent factor in all of those things. I was turning up with my bag of preconceptions about who I am and what I need to be in order to create the life that I want to live. And I'd lived that way for a really, really long time until it came to breakpoint, until it came, the first domino to fall was I was sat in this workplace and I was thinking, how did I become someone who was just so willing to tolerate this level of abuse and disrespect and toxicity? And where did I arrive at this? And there was a lot of things around my thoughts of the harder you work, the you know, the more hot coals you crawl over, like the bigger the prize. And I had to reinvent that notion within myself where actually work should be enjoyable. Work should be a place where you are respected. I am someone worthy of respect, and reinventing myself as someone who truly, truly believed that. And that reinvention allowed me to exit that space. And when I exited that space, all these other dominoes started to fall because that reinvention was the catalyst of me understanding I get to be someone who deserves the amount of respect I afford other people. And if that isn't forthcoming, I get to invent a boundary, a protective line that I say, no, 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 this is where it stops for me. This is, you've reached the point of what I'm willing to tolerate. I also had to invent a way of being in this world that allowed me to vocalize what I think and what I feel and what my perception of my reality is. And again, music was a huge, huge part of that. When I left a job back in 2016 to study my master's, it was learning to find my voice. And that very much was, you know, the first few steps on this journey. I also have to reinvent myself as someone who is okay with not being perfect. I had this construct about me where I thought, when everything is perfect, when I am perfect, when I can show up perfectly and deliver perfectly, then I get to participate, I get to enjoy, I get to receive praise and acknowledgement. And that was such a high bar to set, even to the point where when things were pretty darn good, it was difficult to feel comfortable with that because there was always that nagging suspicion in the back of my mind that it could have been better, you could have done more, that thing, you know. And that I really was challenging through my music. And even now, as I'm coming back out of this period of block and breakdown, I have to keep saying to myself that perfect isn't the aim, growth is the aim. I'm no longer someone who fixates on being perfect. I'm now about the growth. Like, of course, as an artist, the next thing you make, I would always want the next thing I make to be an elevation of what went before, rather than hitting the bar at perfect and where do you go from there? So reinventing my relationship with what I consider perfection or what I consider good, and saying, okay, that's the aim, but growth is the intention. If I'm always trying to level up, then how could it ever be perfect? And finding a way to be okay with that. I also reinvented myself when it came to my habits and routines, which has been a huge, huge part of this transformation and continuing, like making a habit around making these videos. Like the impact of taking time and properly reflecting each week as much as I possibly can, but reflecting each week on the challenges that I've faced, or areas that I've grown, or things that I've overcome, or lessons that have just kind of like percolated and given me something to feel thankful for, even when they've been really, really hard, difficult, painful lessons. Inventing a way to find that nugget of gold, that diamond in the rough, and take that to support continued growth. That's been a huge reinvention. Reinventing myself as someone who walks into the storm and says, okay, like hit me with your best shot, because I'm going to get up. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to take all of the best bits of this difficult situation and assemble them into something amazing. I used to be someone who was like, hit me with your best shot and I'll lie down. I'll lie down right there. And that's where I felt stuck. I was waking up feeling and putting all of this energy into things, all of this energy into a career that's going nowhere, all of this energy into a creative project that's going nowhere slowly, all of this energy into friendships that were really depleting and draining and not nourishing, and I was putting no energy into myself because I didn't think I could generate self-love, respect, compassion from within. I was living a life where I assumed all of that came externally and I had to earn it. So reinventing myself as someone who creates that for myself, and being brave to just raw dog these videos and put them out there and say, look, this is the truth for me today, and I really want to share that. And if you're inspired by this, take a moment today, sit and reflect and say, what is one area in my life where I could do with a little renovation? I could do with a bit of reinvention. I can challenge myself. I can challenge that belief and take a playful mindset to it. Experiment. What would happen if I got up a little bit earlier and did some stretches? What would happen if I got off the tube one stop before and walked in the morning? What would happen if I took 15 minutes and did some sketching, went for a walk in the park, whatever it might be? What would happen if I mixed up my outfits? What would happen if I wore clothes that made me feel good? There's so many little composite elements in our life that we can experiment and play with. And by just tweaking one little thing at a time, looking for where there is the potential to change, it can unlock so many doors that feel like they're not even available to you. So if you hear this today, or whenever you do, remind yourself that you are entitled to reinvent yourself whenever you want, however you want, as often as you wish, because your life and your world that is around you is your greatest creative project. and it's yours to own. So if you want to see the change, make it happen. And I will see you next week. Take care.